Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope everybody is doing wonderful and well as we are now in spring, which means wonderful weather. But for half of us, especially if you live in Texas like I do, allergies for the next couple of months. So hang in there if that's you. That is definitely me. So I'm trying to take advantage of these days that we don't have the allergens yet and all of our patios and cars aren't covered in that yellow film of pollen that is inevitable here in Texas. All right, guys. So I am excited about this new series that I am doing entitled How to Deal with the Constant Stress of Change. Now, full disclaimer, okay, I've actually done a talk on this very topic. I am in the process of growing my business, which is JFit29. And really, JFit29 started off, if you've been to my website or you've heard me talk about it, as personal training business. And it really kind of morphed into what that was and then what my mentoring group was and is, which is called Fit for Your Purpose. And so the world's just kind of blended together. And then I have my faith, and then I have what I teach in sociology. And so I bring all that together. And ultimately, I want to empower, encourage, and educate individuals on finding out how to live in your purpose, because I'm big about that. When you figure out what your purpose is, life really just, I don't want to say it becomes easy, but in some ways it becomes easier because then you love what you do and, there's purpose behind what you do and all of that fun stuff. So this talk that I'm doing today, I actually have done it for another organization that happened to have me do a webinar on it. And so I thought it would be a good way to put more information out there, but just do little snippets of what I've talked about with this. So again, the title is How to Deal with the Constant Stress of Change. There's not one person walking around this planet, just like every single one of us have been affected by the pandemic. All of us deal with change. All of us deal with stress. I know there's always one person who says, I don't get stressed, and I say more power to you if that's you. But, in some shape or form, we all deal with stress, right? How we deal with it is very different, and how we allow it to impact us is going to be very different, right? So when you are dealing with the constant stress of change, there's three things, and I'm going to divide each of my talks on my YouTube channel for the next couple of weeks onto each of these topics. So first, we're going to talk about you have to evaluate. That's what we're going to focus on today. And then the next few talks on my YouTube channel, I will talk about eliminating and educating, and not educating in the traditional sense of, picking up a book, although that matters, but I'll explain that once we get to that in a few weeks. So starting off, in order to deal with the constant stress of change, you must evaluate. And there's three areas that you have to evaluate. So first of all, know that there's good stress and bad stress, and then there's good change, and then there's bad change. So when we talk about change being good, let's start with good. Like, I have a new nephew that's going to be born soon, so I'm super excited about that. But that's going to bring about change for my sister and her family. And so, but that's a good change, right? And in addition to the family, I am in the process in the next month, less than a month, of having to move. Long story, another day, that we'll talk about that, because I'm sure I'll have some stuff to share with you guys about that. But it's not the worst thing in the world, but I hate moving, and there's just, there's a lot that goes with that, right? So I put it more on the negative side, right? And then everything else in the middle and on the opposite extreme. So you have to evaluate. And when I say evaluate, first of all, you have to evaluate your level of control. We all know there are things that are going to happen in our lives that are out of our control. If you get laid off from a job, if you get an illness, if, the death of a loved one, if somebody moves, and they meant a lot to you, those are things that are out of your control, right? And evaluating those, knowing that there's only so much that you can do, but there's always something you can do when it comes to how you manage your feelings and your perspective on it, right? That's what you have control over. So evaluating your level of control in every situation. Try not to allow yourself to get so worked up over stuff that you can't change, right? It's inevitable. I'm using the example of, like, if you get laid off, right? That is going to bring about stress, right? But and I want to choose my words carefully because I don't want to minimize that for anyone that's gone through that. Yet, you ever see two different people, same thing has happened to them, and one person gets stuck in a place of bitterment and anger and negativity, and the other person, maybe for a few days they're dealing with it, but then they're off and running, right? And so they chose a different perspective, basically, at the end of the day. So you want to evaluate your level of control. You also want to evaluate your thought patterns, right? Our minds are one of the most difficult things to get under control. I was just talking to a friend about that recently, and it's doable, but it takes work, right? And so, I could do a whole hour-long talk on this whole thing, but evaluating your thought process, right? One of the things I have learned for myself is that my mind is always going, guys. I teach and I analyze for a living. And then I'm a single mom, so there's always something that needs to be done. And so the minute my eyes open in the morning, my brain is off and running, right? And that doesn't include everything else that, all the people that are important in my life and all of those things, right? And so I noticed a while ago that if I wake up and I allow my thoughts to just go negative, if you will, and I start thinking about things that are bothering me or whatever, it kind of sets the tone for my day. And so I've learned that, I don't get this right every time, but I've learned that when that starts to happen, I immediately get up out of bed. It's time for some coffee, or it's time to, read, or to pray, or whatever I need to do to get out of that space, right? I had to really learn that, because in the midst of, difficult times and storms in my life, you just want to lay and ruminate on the negative thoughts, and that's unhealthy, right? And so remember, we always have control over what we think about and what we don't think about. And so choosing the positive route instead of the negative route will always benefit you. And then last but not least, when it comes to evaluating, you have to evaluate your present circumstances, right? A lot of these tie in together. And so this kind of overlaps a little bit with, your level of control, but evaluate your present circumstance. And this is going to lead into what I'm going to talk about next time. I was going to say next week, but kind of whenever I get to it. But evaluate your present circumstances. Sometimes there might be some things or some people that you might have to start eliminating, right? If they are not adding value or positivity to your life, those things or those people, I know some people don't want to think about that, but it might be time to start moving some people around. I'll say it that way, right? And so you want to evaluate your present circumstance, because when you are dealing with the constant stress of change, now is not the time to be dealing with negativity and things that you essentially have control over, right? It's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to say no. In my talk, I actually said, and I had heard this from somebody, that no is a full sentence. That's something I've had to learn, and it works. It really does. And so we're going to evaluate level of control, your thought patterns, and evaluate your present circumstances. And I hope this is something helpful that will help you the next time you are dealing with the stress of change. All right, guys, I will see you on the next video. Have a wonderful week or weekend.